Peginterferon Alpha 2b. Pegylated interferon alpha 2b, sold under the brand name Peginterferon among others, is a medication used to treat hepatitis C and melanoma. For hepatitis C it is typically used with ribavirin and cure rates are between 33 and 82%. For melanoma it is used in addition to surgery. It is given by injection under the skin. Side effects are common. They may include headache, feeling tired, mood changes, trouble sleeping, hair loss, nausea, pain at the site of injection, and fever. Severe side effects may include psychosis, liver problems, blood clots, infections, or an irregular heartbeat. Use with ribavirin is not recommended during pregnancy. Pegylated interferon alpha 2b is in the alpha interferon family of medications. It is pegylated to protect the molecule from breakdown. Pegylated interferon alpha 2b was approved for medical use in the United States in 2001. It is on the World Health Organization's list of essential medicines, the safest and most effective medicines needed in a health system. The wholesale cost in the developing world is between $500 and $4,800 for 12 weeks. In the United States this costs about $8,400, while in the United Kingdom 12 weeks costs the NHS about £1,595.00. Medical uses. It is used to treat hepatitis C and melanoma. For hepatitis C it is typically used with ribavirin. For melanoma it is used in addition to surgery. For hepatitis C it may also be used with boceprevir, telaprevir, cimeprevir, or sofosbuvir. Host genetic factors. For genotype 1 hepatitis C treated with pegylated interferon alpha 2a or pegylated interferon alpha 2b combined with ribavirin, it has been shown that genetic polymorphisms near the human IL-28B gene, encoding interferon lambda 3, are associated with significant differences in response to the treatment. This finding, originally reported in Nature, showed that genotype 1 hepatitis C patients carrying certain genetic variant alleles near the IL-28B gene are more likely to achieve sustained virological response after the treatment than others. A later report from Nature demonstrated that the same genetic variants are also associated with the natural clearance of the genotype 1 hepatitis C virus. Side effects. Common side effects include headache, feeling tired, mood changes, trouble sleeping, hair loss, nausea, pain at the site of injection, and fever. Severe side effects may include psychosis, liver problems, blood clots, infections, or an irregular heartbeat. Use with ribavirin is not recommended during pregnancy. Mechanism of action. One of the major mechanisms of peginterferon alpha 2b utilizes the JAK-STAT signaling pathway. The basic mechanism works such that peginterferon alpha 2b will bind to its receptor, interferon alpha receptor 1 and 2, IFNR 1/2. Upon ligand binding, the TIG2 protein associated with IFNR 1 is phosphorylated, which in turn phosphorylates JAK1 associated with IFNR 2. This kinase continues its signal transduction by phosphorylation of signal transducer and activator of transcription, STAT, 1 and 2 via JAK1 and TIG2 respectively. The phosphorylated STATs then dissociate from the receptor heterodimer and form an interferon transcription factor with P48 and IRF9 to form the interferon stimulate transcription factor 3, ISGF3. This transcription factor then translocates to the nucleus where it will transcribe several genes involved in cell cycle control, cell differentiation, apoptosis, and immune response. Peginterferon alpha 2b acts as a multifunctional immunoregulatory cytokine by transcribing several genes, including interleukin-4, IL-4. This cytokine is responsible for inducing T helper cells to become type II helper T cells. This ultimately results in the stimulation of B cells to proliferate and increase their antibody production. This ultimately allows for an immune response, as the B cells will help to signal the immune system that a foreign antigen is present. Another major mechanism of type I interferon alpha, IFN alpha, is to stimulate apoptosis in malignant cell lines. Previous studies have shown that IFN alpha can cause cell cycle arrest in U266, DOID, and REC1 cell lines. A follow-up study researched to determine if the caspases were involved in the apoptosis seen in the previous study, as well as to determine the role of mitochondrial cytochrome C release. The study confirmed that there was cleavage of caspase 3, -8, and -9. All three of these cysteine proteases play an important role in the initiation and activation of the apoptotic cascade. Furthermore, It was shown that IFN-alpha induced a loss in the mitochondrial membrane potential, which resulted in the release of cytochrome C from the mitochondria. Follow-up research is currently being conducted to determine the upstream activators of the apoptotic pathway that are induced by IFN-alpha. History. It was developed by Schering-Plough. Merck studied it for melanoma under the brand name Siladron. It was approved for this use in April 2011.
about that, though. Some medical experts say we're getting very close to that point. So why are we here? And what does this mean for all of us? From pandemic to endemic, in other words, a disease that no longer has an end in sight.
It's much more likely now that this virus is going to be endemic. And I think we're going to be dealing with this for not another few months or maybe even another few years. It might just be forever.
The problem is not just with countries like the U.S., where some are choosing to not get vaccinated against COVID-19. It's also about availability. Some nations remain below 5 and even 2% vaccinated. That leads to variants like Delta and potentially more, just like it to come.
That's not something that people like to hear, but basically we've got a short time limit in order to get this done right, and I think we're losing the battle right now, and this Delta variant is proving how difficult this is going to be.
Dr. Paul Cook leads ECU School of Medicine's Infectious Disease Division.
What I've seen and what's happening here is we're talking about it's the person's right to get vaccinated. Well, okay, but that's not how we've been dealing with diseases in the past.
Like smallpox, polio, and a 1989 measles outbreak at ECU.
But that year, the state basically said, you get a measles vaccine or you don't come to school, period. And it's been that way ever since.
But with a disease that's killed 612,000 Americans and around 4 million worldwide, the same sort of mandate is largely non-existent. So Dr. Cook says mask mandates to keep kids in school, social distancing, and working from home should be considered for the long term, as well as boosters.
Now, whether that happens once a year or how that happens, I don't know.
So, Russ, how much is economics likely to play into this?
Well, Dr. Cook certainly thinks a whole lot. I mean, think about this, what people have lost economically at home if they were out of work because they were sick or they lost their job. Think about how much money we spend as a government to bail us out of all of this. Think of the global economic impact. If we keep going through this, eventually it may change a lot of minds to get the vaccine.
So finally, what are medical experts saying to people who want to wait for FDA approval because they don't know how this could affect them long term?
Yeah, I've done some reporting on this too. And the bottom line is medical experts and scientists, researchers all say the same thing. We've got the exact, the amount of data that we've got on this vaccine exceeds the amount of data that we typically or ever have had before on earlier vaccines that got FDA approved.
I think a lot of people forget that too.
Yeah, I think they do.
All right, Russ, good stuff there.